Now, a rally in Charlottesville ended in violence on Saturday as white nationalists who gathered for a Unite the Right march clashed with counter-protesters over a plan to remove the statue of a Confederate general from a city park.
Yes, indeed. Now, the rally turned into racial taunting. Tensions exploded, prompting the Virginia governor to declare a state of emergency. About 2 hours after, a car rammed into a group of counter-protesters, killing one person and injuring 19 others. And joining us from Belgium is Global Affairs analyst Collins Nweke. Good morning. As always, thanks for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Good morning.
Yeah, I wonder what you make of Donald Trump's response to this outbreak of violence in Virginia. Of course, the media has not been entirely kind to him. He's criticized the media, saying that, look, you have taken your gaze off the violence that took place on the side of the neo-Nazis and the rest of them, and you're focusing on my reaction. I wonder what you make of it.
What I make of Donald Trump's reactions on the crisis that unfolded in Charlottesville is that his reaction is typical Donald Trump. In the sense that he appears to be a man that acts before he thinks. That's one. And in that process, he makes huge mistakes. And after such mistakes, he is not the sort of person that can come back and say, I am sorry. It is a taboo as far as he is concerned to actually apologize for things that he clearly got wrong. So it is not only the media. Of course, he could call the media all he wants. I think up and down America and the rest of the world, people have condemned in very uncertain terms his approach, his reaction to the crisis, because as a matter of fact, it appears to have brought America back decades back to a time when racial discrimination, intercultural management was better, and now he has brought them back decades, back in history.
Well, now, the President Trump has said that interracial friendship has been at its peak under his administration. From what you have been seeing, how true could that be from your analysis?
Well, that is, it is very clear that a large part of Donald Trump's constituency is actually white supremacists. Now, this isn't the first time that the world has heard about his romance with a white supremacy group, KKK, and the rest of them. You will recall that during the campaign, he found it difficult to disavow the endorsement of KKK and other white supremacist group. Under pressure, he had to curve in and more or less, disavow their support. However, that didn't just take their support away. So it is clear that a good chunk of his votes actually came from there. So he feels the need to be loyal to them. And that is why, essentially, he has refused to condemn in very clear terms, very clear terms, the atrocities that, they are committing and have committed in Charlottesville. Rather, he decided to blame both sides. And of course, that is not done. Certainly not, from the President of the United States of America.
And of course, in his attempt to do over his seeming mistake in his first response, he sort of like shot himself in the foot. Some analysts have actually described Trump as the white supremacist in chief as president. Now, the pulling down of the Confederate general's statue, which led to the violence and all of that, how does it really impact on history? Can America really deny its history. Trump himself pointed to the fact that Thomas Jefferson, for example, was a slave owner. Do you pull down his statue because it represents a sour spot in the history of the United States?
Well, that's a rather dicey one. And even talking about it myself, I think it's important to be very, very careful, because we can't run away from our histories, be it the United States, be it Nigeria, or be it Belgium. I believe that it is important that the elements that constitute who we are, which is our history, that they are preserved, and that the information about those are visible everywhere and anywhere, so that people learn from them, so that people do not allow history to repeat themselves. Now, to that extent, I believe there are some questions about the pulling down of the Confederate flag. Now, is it the right thing to do? It is the right thing to do, especially after it has gone through all legal procedure and the determination made that it is the right thing to do. So I think those who are protesting against it are really being mischievous, and indeed, it is what it is, and it's got to go.
All right, Collins, let's put you on hold. We'll come back to you shortly and bring Fola Dele now to give us a perspective on social media, what people are saying on this. Fola, good morning.
Hi, Fola.
Nice to see you.
Good morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good morning, Collins. All right, so let's find out what people have been saying about this. Sam Sanders says, can we finally stop pretending America will eventually age out of racism? Lots of those guys in Charlottesville look pretty young to me.
All right, I guess they're having issues with your audio again today. I guess they have to fix that and come back maybe. Yeah, because we'd love to hear from what the people are saying. Now let's come back to you, Collins Nweke, on this. Now a lot of people have one of the tweets here that Fola might come back to read talks about the fact that the expectation to age out of racism and age out of some of these things. Now, it is expected that, or the feeling around the world is that America is one of the most enlightened society. And when it comes to ability to tolerate each other and live freely, is America, you find that. But if we have clashes of racism still at this age in the 21st century, what does that really say?
Well, that says that there is a lot of work to do. Now, in the view of the U.S. Human Rights Network, which is a network of scores of U.S. civil rights and human rights organizations, they said that discrimination in the United States permeates all aspects of life and extends to all communities and colors. So while the nature of the views held by average Americans have changed, much over the past several decades, surveys by reputable, experts in polls, for example, ABC News, have found that even recently, large sections of Americans self-admit to holding discriminatory viewpoints. For example, in a survey I believe that I saw a couple of days ago, which took place in 2010, it was stated that about 1 in 10 Americans admitted to holding prejudices against Hispanics and Latino Americans, and about a quarter of the American population did so regarding Arab Americans and African Americans. So no matter how much we perceive that racial tension has shifted to the positives in the United States, the actual fact is that it is still very much around. And things, or the way that Donald Trump has reacted to this current crisis only helps to deepen the divide and actually increase the tension.
And that's exactly the question I was going to ask you. If Donald Trump is providing the conducive environment for white supremacist sentiments to hold sway, what kind of balancing act then can Donald Trump come up with to convince the so-called alt-left that he's not racist and he's not pushing this white supremacist agenda?
Well, for a start, I am not sure that it matters to Donald Trump whether people see him as being pro-white supremacist or not, because he tends to believe that what he says and how he says them are exactly what his core supporters want to hear and want to see. So, if he's making any attempt at all to dispel the view that he is pro-white supremacist, he's not doing a good job at it, and I believe that he needs to do a lot more. Now, I believe that there appear to be quite, a juicy work carved out for the civil society organizations, human rights organizations, and of course, the liberal part of the Republican Party. And as we have seen in the last couple of days, they have been speaking out, perhaps not as loudly as one will expect, but at least it is beginning to happen. And I think people need to walk past the Trump as far as this is concerned, and hit their goal on other forces, other elements, to begin to improve race relations as long as he remains the United States president.
All right, Collins, let's put you on hold and bring Folai back again on set. I guess your audio should be fixed right now.
You hear me?
Yeah, here you are.
Okay, let's try this again. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take reactions again. Sam Sanders says, can we finally stop pretending America will eventually age out of racism? Lots of those guys in Charlottesville look pretty young to me. Joe Biden says, no, not in America. We must be stronger, more determined, and more united than ever. Racism and hate have no place here. Google Letu says, I'm seeing threads about America looking to South Africa on how to deal with racism. Good God, no. Look away from this mess. Av says, racism, sexism, bigotry, and fascism are nightmares coming to life so rapidly. It's like America has become a scary movie. Mr. Krim says, so many are saying that this hate and racism isn't what America is truly about. Since when? Point to an exact year when it wasn't about that. Okay, I hope I quickly have time for a quick question. Yeah. Okay, Collins, so the first person here was talking about racism being something that will ever age out. Do you think racism in America is something that will ever age out? Because he was talking about the guys involved in the Charlottesville incident looking pretty young. So is racism just a cycle that just keeps going round and round and being passed on to the next generation? Is it something that will ever age out?
Well, I think it's on the risk of being pessimistic, and I must say this, I'm naturally, optimistic. But I mean, there are signs indeed that racism, but whether it is something that will, ultimately age out is very, very doubtful, especially with reference to the point that you made, one of, the reactions that you got about the age of the people. I will give you an example with myself. I live in a society, I am a minority, and my kids, who are 21 and 23 at this moment, their age mates are more or less colorblind. And I'm talking about the large, the vast majority of their age mates. However, there are still a pocket of individuals, especially those from homes where racism, and xenophobia is encouraged, and they find the need as family honor, as a matter of fact, to continue to propagate, such views. Now, there are a few who actually decide that, no, sorry, Mom, Dad, I do not agree with you. The school has taught me something better, and sorry, I am not continuing that legacy. So yes, it will not age away completely, but it could be managed, and through education, through interaction, I think it could be kept to a manageable situation.
All right, I guess this is where we have to leave it now. Thank you very much, Fola. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you, Collins Mweke, Global Affairs Analyst, for joining us on TVC Breakfast this morning. Thank you. All right, this is where we come to the end of today's edition of the program.
Yes, and the troubling thing indeed is that, you know, other countries are looking and watching to see what Trump does eventually, and as a matter of fact, what the United States will do with this racial tension that he has. Don't forget, here back home, the ethnic issues and all of that.
Here and there.
And America owes it to the rest of the world to, you know, shine the light.
Although from the reports, a lot of analysts have said that the president, Trump, has taken the wrong step in the first place for not reacting the way he was supposed to react at first, not being reactionary.
Yeah,
exactly. But we look forward to all of these things being handled and so on.
Hope it will blow away soon.
Certainly.